And our attention now is shifted to growing SMEs in Nigeria. Looking at SMEDIM communique, there was actually a communique released at the end of a retreat by the small and medium enterprises in Nigeria, looking at a lot of issues that were tabled for the government to consider, and of course other regulatory bodies and financial institutions to also consider in order to grow the small and medium enterprises in Nigeria. And to also talk about that on the program today, we have with us A.K. Ubiji. He is the Executive Secretary, the Nigerian Association of Small and Medium Enterprises in Nigeria. Thank you for coming on the program. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Balaji.
We appreciate your time with us.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you've seen the communique.
Yes. I have a copy.
First of all, what's your own assessment of all that were tabled at the end of that retreat?
The communique has 10 points. Has 10 points. And the communique and the 10 points raised really touch very critical areas that impact positively on MSME development. That's what I would say at the moment. But nonetheless, there are some other things I felt they could have added. Maybe past programs that the government dropped that would have really helped SMEs, especially the issue of access to funding. I expected SMEDIM to touch on the issue of SMILE scheme, small and medium enterprises, investment scheme, which the CBN started under the governorship of Mr. Joseph Sanusi, so that banks will set aside 10% of their profit before tax to assist in SME development.
Okay, I will go into details of all of this later on, but let's get back. Let's look at the state of micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises in Nigeria. Where are we?
Somehow, I would say we take a step forward and take some steps backward. That's the way I put it. And I have reasons for saying that. What do I mean by that? Yes, the government have come up with some positive policies. For example, just a few months ago, the federal government came up through the auspices of the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, came up with the idea of setting up an SME council at a national level to be chaired by Mr. President and relevant stakeholders to serve in that council. At the same time, the federal government, through the auspices of the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, came up with what they called NEDEP program. That's National Enterprise Development Program. Both the SME Council and the NEDEP will be replicated at the state level and local government levels, which is a very, very commendable initiative, which, if well implemented, is really going to help in SME development. So these are some of the initiatives. Then there have been some interventions. For example, the Central Bank of Nigeria on August 15th launched what they call Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Fund, which is a very good initiative, which they are going to release about 220 billion for MSME development in the country. Out of that amount, about 60% will be given to, will pay attention to the gender, pay attention to women entrepreneurs. Though they've not really started implementing it, but everything's being worked to see that it's implemented. These are very good initiatives.
Well, you mentioned a number of initiatives in the past, like from the tenure of from one-time Central Bank Governor Joseph Sanusi.
Sure.
From that time to now, how can you assess effort by the government to turn around this sector?
Okay, one.
Are these funds not addressing the issues, or they didn't address the issues at all?
Yeah, that's really the main problem. After Sanusi, Soludo came in as governor of the CBN, and it was under Soludo's governorship of the CBN that SMILE scheme was scrapped. You understand?
How was it scrapped?
You see, the banks, if you look at the SMILE scheme, the CBN chairs the bankers committee, while all MDs of commercial banks are members of the bankers committee. So implementation of the SMILE scheme was really in the hands of the banks. But along the line, the banks had their complaints. They were saying SMEs had challenges. Not all of them. But what we were saying then was that, look, this is a hands-on approach. If you want the SME sector to develop, you really have to assist also in the development.
The banks will tell you that they're in business. Are they a bit pessimistic about the fact that they may not get the returns from the SMEs? Is that the reasons why, or is that the reason why they backed off from it, or why would they not want to assist SMEs?
Even at that time, some of the banks that were in existence then, some of them have fallen aside. But even then, not all of them were really seriously interested in SME development. I'm sorry to use that word, but that's the truth. Those who are aware of what happened at that time will agree with my point of view. Some were funding SMEs, some were not. Even look at the modus operandi. The owner of the bank, 60-40. That's how it's divided. And then the banks have an exit time. By the time a bank invests in your business, they stay for 3-4 years and that's it, as far as your business is doing well. You understand? If all the banks were participating that way, that would have really helped. But a lot of them, sincerely speaking, were not really paying serious attention to it.
Is it that there are no particular businesses that were supported by the banks at that time? Were there particular businesses that you know of? If the banks are not actually taking over most of the responsibilities, but are there specific businesses or companies or small businesses that you know of that the bank supported at that period?
Absolutely, absolutely. There are some of them I know very well. But what we are saying is this: the number of SMEs you have in the country compared with the number the bank supported were very limited. That's the issue. Look at the statistics given by Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. We have over 17 million SMEs in the country. So how many of this number got the SMILE scheme?
Do these SMEs belong to bodies like SMEDEN, like CMAR, bodies like that are there to support the growth of SMEs? Do they belong to such a body? Because I believe that if the central bank or banks in general want to support SMEs, they'll go through bodies like SMEDEN. Or do you think they belong to such?
The truth is this. I must tell you that not all the SMEs are registered with business membership organizations. Not all of them. But reasonable number of them are also registered with business membership organizations. But for you as an SME to access some of these interventions or funds provided for SMEs, you must have a corporate status. You must be registered. In our own case, Nigerian Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, for you to be registered with us, you must be incorporated. If you are not registered, we will not accept you. If you are not registered, means you don't have a legal status. So, and also for the banks, for you to access their facilities, you must be registered. Then the CBN really helped. But let me tell you, when the SMILE scheme was functioning, there was a presidential committee that was monitoring it, and we served in that committee, so that if you are given the SMILE scheme either in the east, in the north, in north central, northwest, northeast, this presidential monitoring committee goes around to check what a bank has claimed it disbursed to SMEs and see what the SME is doing with it. But along the line, they never allowed that to last. So I expected the SMEDEN, in as much as the communique they release is quite good, but I expected, because they touched on the issue of access to funding,
which is very key.
Which is very, very key. I expected them to have added that point, because they talked about funding, which is very, very good. But now, I expected them to have added the issue of revitalization or reintroduction of the SMILE scheme, which is a very good initiative.
What difference would it have made? Because from what I have here, there is a National Enterprise Development Program. There's also the One Local Government, One Product Program. Quite a number of programs. What difference would it have made, or you felt that this shouldn't have been introduced in the first place?
You mean this other
program? And the One Local Government, One Product shouldn't have been introduced since we have the SMEs scheme.
No. I understand the differences. SMILE scheme talks about funding. That's funding basically. But when we talk of the NEDEP, National Enterprise Development Program, or SME Council, it's talking about programs that will aid SME development in the country. Funding aside, funding is part of it, but there are a lot of initiatives you have to bring on board. Things like cluster development, infrastructural development, and so on and so forth. You understand? So when we talk of NEDEP or SME Council, we are talking of a holistic approach. Look at the issue of NEDEP and SME Council. That policy says SME Council will be replicated at the state level and local governments. Now, I can tell you today, Ogun State, Edo State, Osun State, Oyo State, Kano State have all introduced SME councils at their various state levels, and BMOs are involved. And at this council, the state government will interface with stakeholders to initiate policies that will address SME development in the various states. And we expect the same to be replicated at the local government level. Today, what are the 704 local governments we have in Nigeria? What are they doing? In China, even local governments play a role towards SME development. Everything should not be left at the hands of the federal government or the state. That if the federal government is pushing its own, the state governments are pushing their own, and then the local government, there's going to be a massive and holistic approach to SME development.